Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. Today's conversation is going to be the fourth in a series that we've done. We've talked a little bit about how to buy your pharmacy. We then talked a little bit about how do you maintain and keep a pharmacy going. And then we talked about how do you sell your pharmacy. Today we're going to talk about something that not enough people talk about. What do you do once your pharmacy is sold? How do you live a life when you're a young person and you've actually sold your pharmacy? I mean, my guest today may not know that much about being a young person, but we are playing Twinsies Tuesdays. So I happen to be the better looking twin. He's the redder looking twin, but he looks more tan, so I'll give him that. This is the Darshan Talks podcast. Our guest today is a guest we've had, like I said, several times before. He is an entrepreneur. He's a business advisor and an accountability coach. He, as in his own words, he fixes fucked up businesses. So our guest Rudy started his career as a doctor of pharmacy and moved to buying, growing, and selling an institutional pharmacy, apothecary. Now he's focused on helping other business owners and entrepreneurs grow their businesses into success stories. So if you are looking to build your business to grow into a success story, consider talking to Rudy. From what I gather, he's just looking to help people and work on describing himself a little bit better but without using expletives. So if you have advice on that, I'm sure he'd love to hear it. This is Darshan Talks podcast. Hey, Rudy, how are you?
Good. Yeah, we're really trying to hone in on exactly how I want to describe myself. So I'm happy to hear suggestions on that. And every time I come on, I bring a different sort of introduction. So, I got to keep it real. We got to keep it fun, And yes, retirement is really first world issues. That these are real. We have to talk about. We got some real problems to talk about after you sell your business.
Well, but everyone talks about that. So first of all, do you consider yourself retired?
No. I consider myself unemployed.
That's a really interesting distinction, though, isn't it? Why unemployed versus retired? And what's the distinction for you?
No, I don't think I'm unemployed, and I don't think I'm retired. I think I've bought time, and I think I'm in a situation where I get to do. I spend a lot of time investing in myself, and we could talk a lot about that. Which is, I think that people need to do more of investing in themselves. Whether you own a business or you don't own a business, or you're retired or you're not retired, I think people need to invest in themselves. But I have the ability to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. And for me, business is my sport. So I'm engaged in a bunch of different things that I really enjoy doing.
But let's start with that basic premise, right? You said there's unemployed, there's you bought time, and then there's retired. What do you see as the distinction between each of those?
So, all right, let's talk about unemployed. I mean, I think unemployed could traditionally be, and also just as a side note, if you really like the music Darshan's playing, let us know. Really let us know, because
his terrible taste in music.
He's he said that I have no rhythm, which I agree with, and I'm tone deaf. So, but yeah, we can always mix it up to something else. He didn't like my suggestions, but so I think unemployed is sort of traditionally speaking somebody that maybe loses their job or has chosen to leave the workspace, great resignation. And then I think retirement is with the intention of really never going back to work. I think that traditionally speaking, I think retirement is like, I've worked all these years, I have saved enough money, I'm at the age where I can't or don't want to do this anymore, and I'm going to retire and generally speaking, not go back into work or not have to do it for existence. But I think that is changing dramatically anyway in our world, and we'll continue with the pensions going away and people not investing and inflation, and I think that's a challenge. And then what was the third one? Bought time.
Yeah,
and I think the third one is really that it's really freedom, right? I've I have chosen to do this podcast. I don't have to do it, even though Darshan pays me a lot of money.
All $0 will be coming to you
Yeah,
immediately.
exactly. Or that I invest in real estate, or I help people with their businesses. I do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. But getting to this place, I think for me really was a journey, because I think when you initially when you're built the way that I'm built and you initially take that step back after you sell your business and exit completely, I think it's very different, right? You go from being like this extremely important person that has a million emails and 1,000 phone calls every day that everybody's explicitly reliant upon, um, to really having not a lot of responsibility. And some people that works really well for them, where they're like, I'm going to golf every day, I'm going to drink Mai Tais. But for me, I was like literally in a panic.
But that's kind of interesting to me. I'll tell you what my distinction is, and
Yeah.
I'm curious if you agree. Like for me, unemployed reads a little bit like they want that next job, and time is not on their side. So there is a finite amount of time before they have to go back because money runs out or something like that. On the other hand, retirement is you will never be specifically looking for a job in the foreseeable future. Um, and if you're sort of sunsetting, if you will. And then there is the bought time, which is you are potentially looking to go back, but it's going to be on your terms in a role you want. My question for you is, first of all, would you agree with that definition?
Yeah, I think those are reasonable definitions. I like those. You know what? I'm going to adopt those as mine. I like those definitions, and I don't like mine. Those ones are better.
Fair enough. Well, I guess my question then, since you have adopted my definition, how do you choose your next step? You said obviously you're helping people, but you seem to be almost doing that for shits and giggles. So, what makes you choose what is going to be your next step?
Yeah, I think it's just a feel like the next thing for me. I've never really planned, like I've always tried to plan my life explicitly, and everything that I said that I was never going to do, I ended up doing, and everything that I said I was going to do, um, I never did. And so my path that, when we were in college, people were like, you need to have a 5-year plan. Well, like that was just a train wreck. It was a 5-year train wreck because everything on the plan was scrapped, and I never ended up doing any of those things. So for me, I think I will just step into the next thing, and it'll feel like this is where I should go, and then I'll just start doing it, and then I'll either love it or I'll say this isn't for me, but most likely I'll just love it and keep going with it. So I don't have a good answer. I just keep doing the things that I like doing, which is buying real estate and investing in startups and helping them get going, and angel investing and going to the gym. Um, yeah, I mean, being on the nonprofit boards and helping them professionalize their organizations or help them build revenue. So, but for me, yeah, I think that I'm enjoying doing those things, and I'm progressing towards probably something new shortly. Just not exactly sure what it is, but I feel it coming.
So, I'm going to introduce you to a term that a friend of mine made up this past weekend. And I think it is unfortunately it hits me a little close, but I'm going to tell you all about it. It's called the douchebag trajectory.
And my profanity's bad, huh?
It was a female who told me this. So this friend described it as when you're in your 20s, you start off with doing the licensing and sort of making alcohol and drinks and stuff like that. The mixer, the bartender license, if you will. The second one is you then start doing the traveling, and you do the wine Napa wines and the Spain wines and stuff like that. Somewhere along the way, you start hitting up the climb up Machu Picchu and Kilimanjaro. Somewhere along the way, then you get the pilot license. Then you have the trying that it's usually for men at this point. There is a female version, but apparently the male version then involves finding and or dating the woman who's too young for you.
Okay.
And I think there were a couple of additions that I'm sure I'm missing, but
I think I'm right there right now. Finding the young, too young. Yeah, I think that's where I'm stuck at the moment.
Well, do you have your pilot license?
I've worked on my pilot license. I've got like a bunch of hours. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's so good, right? You can be like, hey, you want to like take a trip to Nantucket?
You've done the $100 burger thing. Apparently, that's a thing.
Well, now it's like a $2,000 burger, but yeah.
But that is, and I guess my point to you would be: is that what you do when you've got time? Do you then find things to do to keep you busy? I mean, I heard you talking about angel investing and gymming and nonprofit boards, but none of that really came across as a passion. It came across as something you do because you have to do something.
I don't think I have to do these things. I think I enjoy them and I don't have to go. Like the pressure for me to be successful financially isn't there anymore. So I can build my real estate portfolio and I can work on those deals, but I don't have to run at 110 miles an hour anymore like I used to. Like and that pressure just came from myself. For me, it was
Right.
like I need to do this and I have to be successful. So now, no, and don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I like looking this good, so I go to the gym because I enjoy it. But I mean, Monday I don't enjoy it, and my trainer. After I work with my trainer, they're supposed to like pick you up, but I have to go to therapy after I work with my trainer because he just makes me feel so horrible about myself. So, but I do the things that I want to do when I want to do them, and I get to take my time in exploring these other opportunities. And I think you still have to, in my opinion, I think you still have to do the things that you're passionate about. And I'm passionate about making money. So like, that's my milestone. That's my success. That's the measuring tape for me. So I'm always like, my properties, like I'm trying to optimize them and I'm trying to upgrade them. I'm trying to make sure that I can squeeze as much profit out of them as possible. And I find enjoyment in that. And that to me is like business. So if I were to step back into the pharmacy space or something of that nature, I think I would probably step into it a little bit differently because I don't have to make $1 gazillion and exit tomorrow. I can take my time a little bit and build it and maybe build a little bit more infrastructure, or I don't have to run a 17.5% margin. Although that was to me just like another, measuring stick ruler, like being able to be the best. But I think it just gives you the latitude to, in my mind, like I was under the gun. Like I had put like my own pressure on myself to get there as quickly as I can. And now I just don't have to do that. So I don't know if that answers your question, or what.
I don't even remember what my question was, so that's fine.
I don't even think you have a question.
Fair enough.
I think
Fair enough. But and that's exactly why this Darshan Talks ends up being.
It was actually my question. I answered it myself.
Well, kudos to you for having a great answer to your own question. That's how you win and ace all your tests. All you do is ask the question and make sure you answer it. But so what you're really describing is an interesting thing, right? So what you're describing is you're now financially free. And we're going to have a whole discussion. I intend to have a whole discussion on what that means. But before that, you talked about how you want to join that next startup or the next company, and you enjoy making money, and what you want to do is potentially do it right. If that's true, Do you think that makes you incompatible with a lot of the other business people who might go, you made your millions, I haven't, I'm on a quicker trajectory than you are. You're going, I want to do it right this time. I'm not dying to sell this thing. I want to do it because I want to do it right. They're going, I want to sell this thing. How do you reconcile that? Do you worry that when you talk to people that might not match?
No, I think that I would say let's sell it. I think that I'm happy to bring my knowledge and skills and abilities to help you run harder, but I'm not necessarily going to run next to you as hard as you should be running. I'm not going to be the majority stakeholder, and I'm not going to be the majority winner in the end either. I'm not interested in that. I've done well enough that I want to see other people do well, and if I get something along the way for it, that's great. But I don't expect to be, the 70% shareholder in the company, that I'm coming into. If I buy into a minority stake, what I'm going to offer to bring is my time and my talent and what I've done and my experiences, and help them run faster and be more efficient. Because I've seen people running very hard, but they're just not very efficient at it. They're all over the place. They're not thoughtful. They're not paying attention to the right information or the right things. I'm a really good operator, and I can teach people how to operate so that they aren't really just spiraling and not accomplishing the things they should really be accomplishing or focusing on. So a lot of people don't even focus on revenue, or they don't focus on what the profit is that they're getting from that revenue, or what parts of the revenue are the most profitable, and they're just out there getting revenue, or they're not focused on compliance, or they don't look at their reporting. So they're like, oh, I filled all these scripts, and I'm like, well, did you optimize it? Did you check your reports? Did you get paid correctly? Are your contracts right? And who are you contracted through? I mean, are you buying well? So there's a lot of things that, you can go in 90, 100 miles an hour, but you're not looking at the right things. You're just getting business. It's great.
So what I hear you saying is it goes back to that business coaching thing you were talking about a minute ago. But do you find that gets you into the minutia as opposed to the overall strategy? And where do you enjoy playing? Are you more the CEO type who talks about the minutia and how you run that thing more efficiently? Or are you more the strategy guy going, well, is this really the plan you want to execute, and why is that the plan?
I mean, for me, I'm both, and I think you have to get into the minutia. I think it's extremely important. When I ran my business, I knew how everybody's job functioned. I could do everybody's job, and I know that people are like, that's crazy, but I've seen it firsthand where people come in from the outside and they're so reliant upon the people that are supposed to report to them that if those people don't do their job, A, they don't know, and B, they just are pushing stuff down. And I think that the top needs to own it all. I think that they have to be able to go the entire way down and up, from being able to type a prescription, fill a prescription, buying the drugs. If you don't know all of those things, then you can be bamboozled very easily, and you don't really have a good understanding of your operation. And I get it. And you're like, well, if you're a General Electric, and I'm like, if somebody said come over and be the CEO of General Electric, I would want to understand everybody's positions from the bottom all the way up. Period. End of story. I'd spend so much time trying to understand that, because otherwise I don't really know how to operate the business. And so I am about the details and the minutia, and I really get into the details. And then I think it's important. And then I just think differently about stuff, and I pull things together that people normally wouldn't pull together or think that they belong together. And then I do strategy. I think strategy is extremely important. I love strategy. I like the gamesmanship, because all I do is win.
You're very shy and humble about it, but yeah.
Well, this all goes back to because I wanted Darshan to play the "All I Do Is Win" song, and he wouldn't. So,
ignoring the copyright issues associated with that, but
yeah. Well, so now we have like I don't know what this music is. It's like it's from his calm. It's from his calm.
Just to be clear, it's the free music that StreamYard gives us to use, and I can't even upload other songs or other tunes. So while Rudy does prefer I use other music, my options aren't that great. I have like 6 options I can use. So it is what it is. But let's explore that a little bit more, right? So now you've landed up in a scenario where you want to win with money, and that means optimizing. And when you're talking about optimizing, one of the things you start struggling with and start thinking about is how do you, like, you optimize the money that's coming in and you optimize the money that's going out. Did you go and get a financial planner to help you figure out what you're going to do with your money? Did you get a tax accountant? Like, who's your team now?
Yeah, so I have a bunch of lawyers who are great. I think, and this isn't a tout for you. Don't take it. I think it's really, really important to have a great. I'll use Trump adjectives. A great team around you, like a huge team around you. A bunch of nice, huge team. But I've had lawyers that were not great, and I've had lawyers that are great, and there's a humongous difference. And it's not always how much you pay or what you pay for, but a lot of times it is. And from my experience, the advisors that I've surrounded myself with are an important part of my team. And when I identify something, I literally don't have to be involved with every step of it, and I feel comfortable. It takes years for them to get that level of comfort with me. So I have a financial planner who I met at a Cardinal trade show. He's an amazing guy. He really focused on pharmacies. He worked with me to manage my tax liability and different strategies to minimize taxes as a business owner and a pharmacy owner. And I have real estate lawyers, and I have lots of litigators, and so I have a really great team. And when something comes up, I can throw the ball in their court. I have realtors that know what I'm looking for, and they don't just drop an opportunity or property on my desk. It comes with a pro forma. It comes with all these specific things, and then when we're moving forward, they're getting insurance lined up. They're doing more work. It's not my team understands that they need to carry the ball. And I'm the leader saying, like, all right, here's the mission. This is what I want. Let's go get it. And everybody runs.
Right. So let me ask you this question. So you mentioned litigators, which I think is really interesting. One of the things I've heard is when you're rich, you get sued more.
You do.
So talk to me about that. Like, as a lawyer, the worst thing in the world that can happen to you is you get sued. How do you deal with that?
I've gotten really comfortable with being in litigation, and sometimes a win for me in a litigation is a reasonable settlement too. So I always don't look at it as like, yeah, I look at it from an intellectual standpoint of saying, like, if this has to go all the way and we have to go to depositions and discovery and trial, how much is that going to cost me with my team? And if it's going to be less and I can write a check, then a lot of times I'll write the check and say, like, I'm done with this after I feel like it's where I want it to be. But I think that I was very brazen, and I also didn't do enough diligence at times. So I did step into some trouble and had to fight my way out. And I've won them all, but I think I'm more judicious now, and I also spend more time utilizing the attorneys I've surrounded myself with to sort of keep me out of positions. And you have to learn that along the way, because I didn't really have access to. I didn't know who was a great attorney, right? Like I didn't just like, you can't just pick up the phone and be like, hey, I need a great attorney, So I've had to find those people along the way, and then I've learned, and we've all grown together. My financial planner advisor literally had just started his own firm the year that I bought my business, and like we have grown together. Now he runs my family office, and I'm his only family office client, and it's great. But and he runs point on pretty much everything for me that I don't want to deal with, and some of the things that, some of the things I want to deal with. So but I think those are important things. And people say, well, um, you have those things because you have the wealth. That is true. But as you acquire more wealth, try to be open to thinking about what makes sense. And I find that pharmacists, um, and this is a generalization, but this has been my experience, are very trepidatious about making big financial decisions.
Right.
Say, buying $120,000 automation device or something of that nature. And um, I wasn't. If it made sense to me, I just did it. And or for example, like a person like me, I've met with many pharmacists, and I say, it's going to cost you this much money, but I will, on paper, I will show you, I will make you this much more, like 10 times the amount, and that's reoccurring. It's not like it ends when I leave, right? So,
Right.
and then they're like, yeah, I don't really know if I will, and for me, I think that's a waste. And I'm not saying because it's me. I'm saying that if somebody can demonstrate to me that they can make me this much more money, or if somebody comes in with a technology, right, and says, I can guarantee you that I'm going to save you, 25% on your cost of goods.
Right.
Well, but it's going to cost you this much up front, and it's going to be reoccurring of this much cost. Well, try it. Get into it. I mean, if you can't find people to work, and you're reached a maximum amount of blister cards you can fill, so you can't take on more business, buy a robot.
But isn't that, especially as you get richer, I imagine that one of the things you deal with is everyone's trying to sell you something. I mean, I want to sell you. I don't have anything to sell you. I really wish I did right now, but that would have been great. My question for you is, how do you deal with so many people coming at you with things to sell? Like, how do you ever, you're telling me, for example, 25%, I can save 25% here or 35% here. You just need to prove that to me. I guarantee you a good salesman has that pitch for you, because otherwise, what are you selling? So
Yeah, I mean, I just wade through it. Like, if it doesn't make sense and if it doesn't fit in my portfolio and I can't see that I need it, or if I deep down, if I do a lot of gut checks, every time I've gone against my gut, and like, even like hiring that person, I'm like, yeah, I'm really hurting. I could use that person, but I don't really feel like they're right fit. And I hire them. Never, it always bites me in the butt. So when my gut tells me not to do something now, like, I really listen to it.
that's really interesting. And I assume the gut check is the same thing as women's intuition, which is just the same exact feeling.
Yes, I'm identifying as Darshan today.
Well, I am pretty, so there's that.
Pretty ugly.
Damn, that's the worst response you could come up with. I expected more from you.
I'm always ready to disappoint.
Fair enough. So we've now reached a scenario where we're talking about, you're looking for your next step. You're trying to figure out, you've sort of solidified your current step. Do you, for example, for the kind of wealth you have, do you use like your manager, the person who's managing your family office? Do they work in an assets under management type scenario, or is it more of a per hourly basis?
No, assets under management.
Okay.
And it's a family office setup, so they're involved with everything in sort of the Dajie portfolio per se. So real estate, they're involved with those things. When we're looking at it, PFS, all that's included. They produce those things. When it comes to getting things lined up with the bank and the bank needing documentation, their office is sending everything over. So yeah, I mean, they're very, very heavily involved in my day-to-day business.
Which seems odd, right? Because one of the things I might argue is that if it's a real estate portfolio, how much can they really impact that?
It's really just about the documentation. It's really
but they're getting a cut 1% of that, or
no,
whatever, 0.5%.
No, they're getting a cut of the assets under management. They're not managing those real estate. So
that's what I was asking. Okay.
Right. So it's just whatever my invested assets are with it. Excuse me.
Right.
Meaning cash that's invested in the market or bonds or alternative investments. they're getting a percentage of that.
So that even though they're managing everything for you, including your real estate, they only get paid based off the AUM.
Yeah.
And how do you advise someone who has just bought their pharmacy? They're starting out, they're starting to think about this. Should they be thinking about all these issues early on, or are these, as you put it, champagne problems or rich people problems?
I didn't put it that way because those are not words that I would ever say. I don't really.
I believe you used one of those words earlier.
I don't particularly. I think I said first world issues, but I don't particularly.
That might be a word.
Really like champagne, so I think that you should be thinking about things not necessarily what my family offices, or like you should always be thinking about what could my potential exit strategy be, or there should always be a number in your head, right? If I walked up to you and said, I will give you this much money, if that's a close number to the number in your head, then you should pause and think about if I want to exit this business to the guy that's going to write me a check today.
Is that what happened for you?
No, I was no, but I mean, I had a number in my head of what I would like.
Yeah.
And it was pretty close to what I got.
Okay.
But I think that, in the middle of, say, like 2.5 years into my business, and I wasn't really like, oh, I want to sell it or that, but I still think I had a number that if somebody were to say, hey, listen, we came across your company, because I think that I had people contact me, like brokers, and I'm like, yeah, I'm interested. Here's my number. And if you guys think that you could get anywhere near that, let me know and I'll start providing you some information. But if not, like, don't waste my time, because the amount of information that they're going to require or need, blah, 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 is just, you're wasting your time, spinning your wheels. So I think that it's important for you to think about things like, how are you going to optimize your revenue? How are you going to make as much EBITDA as possible? What technology can you employ so that you can continue taking on business, or you can be more efficient? And then taxes. I think taxes are extremely important that people don't really plan for. And it also depends on how much risk you're willing to take, right? Like, so I am a non-risk averse person, so I'm willing to look at different tax mitigating strategies that I think a lot of people maybe aren't. And
conservative easements for the win.
Yes, I have easements.
Somehow I thought you would.
Yeah. So, but I think, hey, listen, man, that's not my fault. It's going to get upheld. It's going to be fine. But that's cool, right? Like, if you have really great people, accountants, lawyers,
yeah,
you like, if I get
it exists in the tax code for a reason. So yeah,
right. If I have an audit, I send it to my accountant and he deals with it. I'm not sitting here like fretting. And I think, oh wow, you all right? You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, still here. All
right. I just want to make sure you can hear me, because at least somebody's listening.
You send it to your accountant is the last thing I heard.
Yeah, no. And I think those things are really important. I think that part of success financially is that the things in the past that were bothersome, things that I would be bothered by, were things that I would have to solve myself and would have to bear the burden.
Right.
And now that I don't have to solve these things myself, or I can afford to solve them, I'm less hung up on those issues because they're not really my problem, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, a simple example, like my son has a 4-wheeler and we were out back here and I'm putting a pool in, and real tough like things here going on in my house.
Yeah.
And there's like a hill, and his friend was over, and like he was backing up and he didn't put the brake on, and like he rode the 4-wheeler like back into the pool and like almost flipped over into the pool, and the pool's not full yet, and like whatever. And for me, all I really cared about was he okay? Was his friend okay? Was my son okay? Like, I don't care about the four-wheeler. I can buy another four-wheeler. And I think, so for me, that was getting to a space where, like, I have some nice cars, and people are like, hey, listen, I can't believe you let your friend's 18-year-old take your car out. And I'm like, I don't care, because I can get another car.
Right.
And
Right.
so I'm not trying to sound pretentious about it. I think that
No.
it gives you freedom to not be so hung up on like the minutia or the details of things, where before, like, I had to, like, if I didn't have enough money to get another four-wheeler, it was really important. Like, oh man, I hope it's not
Right.
broken. Or now I have resources and people like on my team that can fix those things, so I can pick up the phone and be like, hey, Jose, come pick the four-wheeler. But before, I'd be like, I gotta find a person that knows how to fix it. Like,
Right.
and then I got to take time out of my life to do that. And I think those were the reasons that I would get upset about things, is because I didn't have the facilities to solve my problem, or
Right.
I didn't know the right lawyer to call. So I didn't want to deal with it, because I was like, I don't know how to deal with it.
Right. Right.
I
It's
don't.
funny. Yeah. I remember listening to Steve Wozniak talk, and there was this line. Someone asked him. They were like, "Do you know how much is in your bank account?" And he said, "I know." Or, "Do you know how much you're worth?" And he goes, "I know to the nearest 50 million." And I, to me, that's his round off point.
Yeah.
So everyone has their round off point. For some people, it's in the pennies. For some people, it's in the hundreds. Some people, it's in the thousands, and some people, it's in the hundreds of thousands. But that's when something grabs your attention. And to your point, that your four-wheeler falls below that line, and it's not something you worry about. Obviously, it'll hurt. It's not something you want to spend money on, but it doesn't change your life any. So I think that's kind of interesting. We're well past time, but before we go, first question: is there, what's the best place for people to reach you?
Just contact me on the LinkedIn, and let's get going.
And what's the best reason for them to reach out to you?
Because I can help fix their fucked up shit.
Fair enough. And last point: what are your parting words or words of wisdom for people who are looking to exit and don't know what to do next?
All right, so this one I've been thinking about for a while, because I always have a
Okay.
different one. So everything is better with more cowbell.
I love it. I love it. It all depends on how much the cowbell is worth, and it affects your bottom line. But Rudy, this was amazing. Thank you for completing the series. Can't wait to have you back on. We'll talk about something else. But thank you, everyone.
Hey, thanks for listening, guys.